home or your whole area as it did a year ago when the Dana plane crashed. These are all the considerations, and you do all that, you ensure that's all in place, and at the same time, you will also do your prayers and dedicate everything that you do to God. And that's what we did, and it worked for us, and I'm sure it will work for other people. You know, and I want to encourage those that are there now to perhaps consider these issues and to continue with the hard work that they're doing. What pains me the most is the fact that, you know, as we speak today, people are still mourning. People haven't buried some of those that died on that crash yet. And people are sitting in their homes crying for their loved ones. And it's a very tragic thing. And it's something that we need to avoid. Whatever it takes, I think we need to ensure that this sort of thing does not happen again. And our history in terms of, or our record in terms of aviation safety in Nigeria, you know, has not been that good. Over a long period of time, we've lost almost 800 people in the space of, the last 11 years or so on and so forth. And I think it's a collective thing. I don't think I should be pointing fingers at anybody or saying I'm better than anybody. I think we all have a responsibility to do our very best. And of course, those that are there today have the primary responsibility to do that. Wherever we can help them, we will certainly help them. And wherever we feel they need to be criticized or be told that, look, this is perhaps you should consider this, I think we should do that. What I think motivated me to write that article, because I make interventions on a number of areas, and aviation is just one of them. I try to avoid aviation because one of the things we don't like to do is talk about what our successors in office do. It's something that I do very reluctantly because it doesn't make life any easier for her. The last thing you want is for a foreign minister to be on your back over any issue. But what I think provoked this particular one was the fact that the day after the crash, even before the corpses have been buried, even before the parts of the burnt bodies have been taken from the crash site and so on and so forth, even before there was an investigation in terms of the cause of the crash, even before the investigation began, let alone concluded, the PDP spokesman got up and said that all was well, they're doing a very good job, and that the minister should be allowed to continue with her job. I felt that you know, you don't speak like that immediately after a crash until you're absolutely sure that everybody did their job properly. And then, of course, there were other interventions, acts of God and so on and so forth. And I think it's important that we are very focused and clear. Where blame needs to be attributed, let it be attributed. And at the end of the day, the President of the Federal Republic is responsible for what happens in our skies and in our country. And the Minister of Aviation is responsible for what happens within the aviation sector. And I think whatever we can do, criticizing has its place. Commending has its place. Sometimes we commend, sometimes we criticize. But to say nothing and do nothing, I think is a big mistake. And this is why we make interventions from time to time.
Tell us about the independence of the parastatals under your watch. I mean, just recently, we've been told, some people believe that the Ministry of Aviation shouldn't even exist, that the NCAA and AIB and FAN can actually do their job independent of a ministry.
No. It would be a very, very ridiculous suggestion that the Minister of Aviation shouldn't exist. The minister is responsible for everything. The parastatal chiefs are accountable to her, and they report to her, him or her, whoever is there at any point in time. And it's very, very important because at the end of the day, these are government agencies. The minister reports to the president, the parastatal chiefs report to the minister. And that's the structure. It's like saying, the army can have a commander-in-chief but mustn't have GOCs, and the troops themselves should be the ones running the show. No, you must have a minister in place. You must have a strong minister in place that knows what he or she is doing. Now, you asked me about the independence of the parastatals under my watch. When I came into aviation, NCAA was firmly under the control of the ministry, which I don't think was a good idea. I didn't think was a good idea. We had a very good man there by the name of Dr. Timorin, who I reappointed in 2005 because he was doing such an excellent job. But what we did do was introduce legislation to give NCAA independence so that Timorin didn't have to report to me directly and he didn't have to take my directives. Of course, he still worked under me. I still supervised him, but there was far more autonomy. And when I pushed that legislation through, it went through the National Assembly and they got their autonomy by the time I left, I finished my tenure. That's number one. Accident Investigation Bureau, I created that agency. We established it, I proposed it, President Obasanjo approved, and we created it. Before then, we had AIPB, which was a part of the ministry, which was charged with investigating accidents and so on and so forth. But I felt that the accidents they were investigating, you can't investigate yourself. You can't be part of the ministry and you're investigating. You have to have an agency that is independent of the ministry and that can report and file its report directly to the presidency, even independent of the minister, and give a copy to the minister. But the minute there's a crash, they're supposed to file their reports to the presidency and just give the minister a copy so that we don't interfere, or the minister doesn't interfere. That's how we structured AIB. It was approved, and that's how we did it, so that there would be independence. So there was independence for AIB. In terms of the other agencies, you can't give FAN complete independence, and neither should you. The NAMA, which is another very important agency, we had very good people running NAMA at the time, and I didn't interfere in their work at all. We allowed them to do their job, but where they got it wrong, we will come in. And of course, under my watch, we ensured that every single aviation parastatal chief, every single one of them, was doing 100%. Not 80, not 90, 100%. And we did this with military precision because I ensured that we watched them and we ensured that they did their job properly. Where they got it wrong, we would intervene and we would either replace them or we'd replace their managers and so on and so forth. And that is the whole point. You need to give the public confidence that you're doing your job so that by the time they're on the plane and by the time they're at the airports, they know that they're going to land, go wherever, land wherever they're going, safely and soundly. And you need to imbue confidence. By the time I came in, there was literally no confidence in the aviation sector. People were scared to fly. But by the time we finished, I think we ensured that that confidence was restored and people were confident to fly again. Sadly, almost 3 months after we left, crashes started again. But I must say this, within the last few years, the tenure of Omotoba, who was Minister of Aviation, I think a couple of it, there was Desani Madueke, then there was Felix Hyatt, and then the gentleman I just mentioned came in, Omotoba came in. He had a very good tenure as well in terms of crashes. There were just a couple of crashes under him, and they were military aircraft crashes and so on and so on. So he also worked very, very hard. And there were many wonderful people within aviation then and even now. But I think we all have to join our hands together and ensure that we do a good job, assist the minister, assist even the president, and assist the authorities to provide the best service for the Nigerian people.
Okay, that was then. Let's see if we can bring you back to now, and I'll take you up on some of your comments you talked about. You said, I'll give you a quote here, you said, the first and most important consideration has to be safety of passengers and the airworthiness of planes, followed by an avowed commitment. So in all of these three, safety of passengers, airworthiness of the planes, and commitment, have you seen any of this existent?
Have I seen any of this in existence?
Yes.
I'm sorry, I didn't get the question. Have I seen?
Yeah, that's it. These three you just highlighted in your piece here.
Yes.
Do you get to see them now?
Well, again, I think what I have to say about what's going on today was well enunciated in my essay, and I don't think it's too helpful for me to get on television and be saying more than I should say, because already this is a sector that's in trauma. There's just been a crash. They are also hurting, and I think we all need to be a little bit careful. But you're absolutely right. In terms of those things you mentioned, we have to do that. Airworthiness of planes, for example. When I was minister, I grounded more planes than any other minister in the history of Nigeria up till today. I mean, anything that I so much as suspected could not fly properly, we ensured that NCA did their job, did the necessary checks, and they grounded so many planes. So in terms of that, it's very, very important. Planes that are old or that cannot fly should not be allowed to fly. And what we did is that we increased the capital base of planes, of airlines, so that you couldn't even have an airline unless you had a much larger capital base. And when we introduced the new measures, immediately, almost about 20 or 30% of the airlines in Nigeria had to close shop, including those that belong to friends of mine, like Marwa and Jimo Ibrahim and so on and so forth, who are very close friends of mine. But we didn't make any distinction. The minute you couldn't match up to the criterion, your airline had to go. So we did that. In terms of people doing their job and all the other things you mentioned, absolutely, we ensured that. Now, in terms of what's going on today, I think that, definitely there are lapses. And there are lapses along the line. And I think it's important that the minister tries to ensure that those lapses do not take place, because at the end of the day, it's her responsibility to do that. And I am sure that with what has happened now, she may try to do a much